I'm Tim Brockman,
I'm Matt Lane.
and we're social studies. Today will be 11th grade, what we're talking about, for that information. So today we're going to talk about World War II in a quick lesson. Just real quick background, for those of you who don't know, it is estimated that there are 50 to 70 million total deaths in World War II. That's including genocide, Stalin, Russia, all the deaths, all the murders he committed, and including Hitler, the Auschwitz, Nazi camps, and so forth. And over 400,000 Americans died in the process of World War II. And with that, over 60 countries fought total.
With a war this big, this vast, discuss amongst yourselves in your groups what you think were some of the key factors or the key factor that caused this big war to close for anyone that knows the history. Discuss in your groups, and we'll get you guys in about a minute or so.
You might not know everything, but just kind of get an idea of why you think World War II ended. Alright guys, any groups want to volunteer, raise a hand. Who thinks they know why, or at least one of the reasons why World War II ended? Does anyone have a clue? Any guesses at least? Yeah.
The bombs that landed on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Okay. You have something? Okay. Is there anything else y'all talked about? Anything different or you think is about answer at all? Even if they don't think it's valid, it's fine.
As far as the European theater, Russians who just kept throwing bodies at anyone for forever.
Last one.
We talked about how resources may have been used up and they didn't have as much to work with anymore after they've been fighting for so long.
That's good answers. Basically, it's kind of like most reasons. We'll go through real quick. The death of Hitler played a huge role. Obviously, they soon resigned from the war shortly after. The bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki were also big roles. Obviously, that basically ended the war with Japan in a heartbeat, literally killing over 100, estimated close to either below or above 200,000 people in those two bombings alone. So,
Okay, we're going to pass out some pictures. Look at the top picture to the right now.
make sure you look at the top picture first, don't look at the bottom one yet.
So while you're looking at the photographs, what you guys ultimately said at the beginning is kind of the consensus on what is viewed as the ultimate ceasefire was the United States bombings on Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Yeah, basically, no matter what the result would be from nuclear warfare at the time, because this is actually the first time it's used in wartime. Basically, no matter what they believed in terms of the total deaths from the nuclear warhead, basically it's they believed that there'd be 2 to 3 times more greater deaths total if they hadn't dropped the bombs, because that would result in Japan. Japan had a mindset where they would not stop fighting until everyone was dead. So they would keep fighting, more American soldiers would die, more Japanese soldiers would die, more innocent civilians would die. So that was one of the real reasons why nuclear weapons were used against Japan, was because of that reason alone.
Yeah, and to think about it, those bombings were an act of war, but a lot of people view them as also murder on innocent civilians. So it's still a debate today whether we should or should not have had the bombings. And so he gave a couple examples why it was necessary to drop the bombs. But Al played the other role and said that, even though it had the potential to end the war, it still resulted in over the deaths of 150,000 people that didn't put forward their lives to willingly know that they might die in the cause of this war. They were just at their homes and they died. And this also doesn't include the post-war deaths of people who got access to radiation and then got cancer, and then their kids were also dying, and we're still seeing high levels of cancer in those areas. So those people who argue against the bombings would say that no active war is worth the killing of innocent civilians. This is the idea that American soldiers were prepared to die as the Japanese citizens were not. So this kind of leads to the question of whether or not the killing of innocent civilians in any situation is an act of war or an act of terrorism.
Yeah, so you have both papers, kind of like reasons for the bombings, whether or not they're justified. And like on there it says like Pearl Harbor, the Bataan Death March, gives a good definition of that. On the other side, the bottom paper, it says about Hiroshima and Nagasaki, these different things that Americans did to innocent Japanese civilians and all these deaths that they caused. So basically the final thing we want to do here real quick is look at both those papers within your groups for a couple minutes. Basically try to come together. You don't have to come together if you don't want to, but try to find reasons for whether or not you believe the bombings are justified or not through those two papers right in front of you. It'll take about 2 minutes to do that. So. It's justified. Alright, well, let's bring it back in real quick. If y'all could do that, please. Do any groups want to volunteer real quick? Just by show of hands, just basically claim you decide whether or not you think it's justified or not, or you can kind of be indifferent about it. Does anyone want to volunteer and give their explanation from the group?
I don't think it's necessarily justified. Maybe just because it would be more justified, I guess, if they had dropped it on like a military facility in Japan instead of like the people in their homes who hardly had any say in what their military did.
That's a good answer.
That is a big argument we'll have.
Is it, anyone else? Who has a different answer on the other side real quick?
You can share, keep the same.
Yeah, you can share.
I think it is also justified because at the time of Pearl Harbor, we weren't actually in the war with Japan, and so they kind of started it, and so if you look at it that way, those soldiers were innocent of an harm against Japan.
That is also the other side. Okay, that was perfect. To wrap up here, there's really no right answer. Like, this kind of question seems it's just a matter of personal opinion. Some people would say it is, some people would say it isn't. Everyone has their own opinion on the subject, and this is still a heavily debated topic today. So thanks a lot.